last time I fell in love. I was age 80, and it was one of those things that felt like kismet, meant to be. I was at this function because my daughter was being honored, and I wouldn't miss being a proud mommy for anything. So here I was with a bunch of people making small talk and reminding myself why I don't go to these things very often. And I'm looking around the room, and there were probably 200 or 300 people there in a big ballroom at a hotel. And all of a sudden, the door opens, and a man walks in with a much younger man, both of them very attractive. The elder man, of course, was the one that I was fascinated with. Full head of gray hair and big smile, walked with pride, and was wearing jeweled jeans and Louboutin men's shoes, kind of way out in the fashion world. But the fact that he could walk into a black tie event dressed that way fascinated me. So I started asking around, who is that? Who's that guy? He doesn't look like anybody else. Does anybody know who this guy is? Nobody knew. So if you want to meet somebody, walk up and say hi. So I did that with a little fortification, went to the bar, got myself a nice drink, walked right up to where he was standing with this younger man, held my drink in this hand, put out my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Linda." And he said, "Hi, I'm Stanley and I'm married." And I looked at him and I said, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were gay. And I thought this was your boyfriend." The man he was with said, "No, I'm his son." And we immediately all liked each other as he explained to me that these particular pants were decorated and created specifically for him by Elton John's designer. And the Louboutin shoes he'd had for many years. I found him fascinating. His son explained to me that he's an artist and would I like to see a piece that he had just finished. It's an absolutely gorgeous painting of the Whiskey A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip. And I said, how fascinating. My daughter, who's being honored tonight, is giving an event at the Whiskey A Go-Go in 2 months. Maybe she could auction it off, give you your price, and the rest of the money could go to her group. The son and my daughter exchanged information. Then it was time for everyone to go and sit down. So I said, it was lovely chatting with you, and went and enjoyed the rest of the evening. And then 5 or 6 months went by, and I really didn't give it much more thought. During those 6 months, the son had contacted my daughter. He let her know about any art shows or things that he was participating in case she wanted to buy any art. Most of the emails he sent went unopened. But every once in a while, she would open an email and see what his latest piece was. In any case, one of those days came up about 5 or 6 months after we'd met, and it was the son reprimanding my daughter for not having gotten back to him. She went back and looked at the previous emails where he had been asking for my contact information for his father. Long story short, she gave me his information. I called and he said, I've been trying to reach you for 3 months. I want to introduce you to a very close friend of mine whose wife passed away. He hasn't been out of the house, hasn't gone out on a date. And you're really a wonderfully charming and interesting woman. And I thought maybe the two of you should meet. And I said, oh, well, that's a lovely idea. So we set up a lunch and we were going to discuss David further, who was to be my future date. He picked a wonderful restaurant. We sat there for 3 hours and we both were a bit flabbergasted because it was hard to imagine that there was somebody else walking around in this world who was so similar to you. He was like me wearing a man's clothing. It was just otherworldly. And at the end of the lunch, he said, I have a confession to make. And I said, what's that? And he said, I really honestly had planned to fix you up with David, but I am not going to do that. Because one day I will not be married because my wife is not doing well, and I'm saving you for myself. And I said, saving me for yourself? What are you talking about? No, you're not. I want to go out with David, which I did the following night. And guess what? David was not my cup of tea. But the more I thought about it, Stanley was. So the months went by. Of course, I never found anybody like Stanley. And the phone rang, and he said, okay, I've been grieving, My wife passed shortly after our lunch, and I am now ready to ask you to have dinner with me. Well, the one dinner turned into us traveling around the world together. There was something very special about what the two of us shared, and I can honestly say that we fell in love. I was 80 and he was 87, but just everything I would ever want in a man. And there was so much tenderness, kindness, enjoying every moment we spent together. It was a reality that I felt so blessed to have. And I know he felt the same way. We had a really good year together, and then his health started to fail. We still managed to go to dinner whenever we could. He was no longer able to travel, but we spent as much time together as was humanly possible until his passing, which was a couple of months ago. I never met anybody like him in my life. I didn't know anyone like that existed, but guess what? I was open. I was open from the beginning, from the moment I saw him. I knew something was special about him. I pursued it. I didn't just say, oh, well, I wanted to meet him. I met him. I wanted to be with him. I was with him. And I opened up my heart to allow myself to fall in love with him, knowing that we couldn't possibly have a very long history together because of our ages, and unfortunately, none of us get out of this alive. But the time that we spent together was so precious. So don't anybody tell me that you're too old, that it'll never happen to you. Why not? When you see somebody who interests you, do something about it. I assure you, he was very flattered. He wasn't insulted that a woman walked up to him and said, you just look fabulous. Who are you? I had to meet you. Don't be afraid. Let love in. Let light in. Allow yourself the joy that comes with meeting another special person who looks at you the way you look at him. Allow yourself to fall in love again. It's not disrespectful to a person you loved before. It's not anything negative. It's 1,000% positive and is made up of pure joy. So believe me when I tell you, it's not too late. It can happen to you. Just allow it. Open your heart and let love in. I did, and it was a beautiful thing.